Here at InnerDrive, we love to talk to exciting people about exciting subjects so that we can help illuminate the world of teaching and learning. And I wanted to know a bit more about the Chartered College of Teaching, so I was lucky to bump into Professor Dame Alison Peacock to ask her about that very subject. What is the Chartered College all about?
So, Alison, so the Chartered College has a charter. What on earth is a charter?
So it's a very important document that has a royal seal. It's produced on vellum, and it's got gold inlay, and it's framed, and it's in one of our offices at the Chartered College. And essentially, it's a document that is awarded from the King. And only one of those documents can be awarded to any professional organisation at any one time. So we hold the charter for the teaching profession. And our charter says that we will advance the best qualities of being a teacher and help teachers to improve their practice. So that means that we are able to offer chartered status, which obviously is the kind of thing that you hear about chartered accountants, chartered engineers, and so on. But it's not something that you can just apply for. It's something that you essentially are granted. So we were granted the Royal Charter in 1849. And we now have a supplemental charter, which is for the new kind of most up-to-date version of the Chartered College of Teaching, which came into being at the beginning of 2017, because prior to that, there was a previous organisation, the College of Preceptors, which was back when the college first was started, that turned into the College of Teachers, and then the latest iteration is the Chartered College of Teaching, and I'm the founding CEO of that organisation, and I have, together with our council and employees, we hold the Royal Charter for Teaching.
That's excellent. So does that mean you're like many other chartered institutions? That means that you're the professional representative or the professional? Are you? Is it like gives out professional qualifications? Are you representative? What does that mean in real life?
So what it enables us to do is to award chartered status to teachers. So we spent a considerable amount of time together with our research team researching professional principles of practice from around the world. And we established those principles, and then we established a series of modules and assessments that go against those modules. We then did a pilot, and now we have teachers, several thousand teachers who are on the way to becoming chartered teachers. And what this means, you have to have been teaching for a minimum of 3 years before you begin your chartered journey. So it's really a mark of excellent practice, of reflection, of pedagogy in action. So it's about making sure that you can evidence the kind of claims that you're making. So you could do a master's degree in education and not actually be a terribly good teacher. You could be quite a good thinker, but you might not be able to do any of it in practice. Whereas what the chartered route seeks to do is to really drill down into what are you reflecting on your practice? What do you need to improve? How can you evidence that you've improved that? Can you give us video capture? Can you have to do a written exam to be a chartered teacher? So it's not something for the faint-hearted, to be honest.
Right.
But we have plenty of people who really aspire to gaining that kind of recognition and that sense of this is a real badge of quality. It's a status, not a qualification, which means that when you've achieved that status, you need to constantly refresh that status, constantly refresh, to ensure that you're not talking about something you studied 25 years ago. This has to be up to date and real and relevant in classrooms and across schools right now.
So the important thing is it's a badge of quality. It's like being a chartered surveyor or a chartered lawyer or all the other charters. It's like saying we have looked at this person and we believe that they have the qualities that we'd like to recognise.
Yes, and I think probably, given that there are 25,000 odd schools across England, we would expect that ultimately schools may have one or two chartered teachers within them. It's not the aspiration that we think all teachers will seek to become chartered. But if, as a parent, you were choosing a school for your child, maybe you would be impressed if that school had teachers who were chartered within it, because it would really evidence the quality of their skill in the classroom, their skill in terms of leaders, or their skill in terms of teaching. And when you've got people like that around you on a staff team, they're the kind of the movers and shakers. They're the people that you kind of look to in a staff meeting or at a lecture, and if they're buzzing, you kind of think, oh well, this is something that we're going to be able to take on. This is something we can do. So they're the kinds of thinkers really within any staff team. So I would hope that ultimately this raises the status of what it means to be a teacher, because working alongside chartered colleagues means that you are going to be constantly kept abreast of what's the latest thinking, what are the latest ideas, what's the most up-to-date knowledge that can be shared. And that has to be a good thing. You would want your doctor to be up to date with the latest thinking in terms of their medicine they're prescribing. Why wouldn't you want your teacher to be up to date in their thinking around the way that they're organising their classroom or the work that they're setting for individual students? You'd want that, wouldn't you? So
okay. So no, I can understand that. I suppose though I'm still going to ask you the question, which is, we live in a modern world. We get lots of qualifications. We're being tested the whole time. This seems like quite an old-fashioned idea of badges and stuff like that. It's a bit sort of old-fashioned. Why is it? Why do we need it? Why does a teacher need it? Why does education need it?
So it's interesting you say it's old-fashioned. I mean, schools are, by their very nature, incredibly conservative places. They haven't changed very much over the last 150 years. And I think within school, you want to know that you are being taught by people who know what they're talking about. So the post-nominals that come with being a chartered teacher immediately give you recognition, even if you're just kind of signing your name. There's recognition there that you have studied beyond just qualifying to become a teacher. And I think you're right. I mean, there's constant sort of need to or a desire to kind of improve practice, but the idea of having something that has the quality of something like a charter, a royal charter, that actually you can't just go and get something like that off the shelf. You can't just do a kind of quickie, I'll now become a chartered teacher. It's a rigorous process. Mm-hmm. And I think we, within education, we really value that process of seeking accreditation. It's something that shows that you've studied, that you've considered, that you are reflecting, and it's something that is, and is quite rightly, is impressive. Mm-hmm. All teachers are not the same. And we want to encourage teaching to be a much more highly regarded profession. So having colleagues within the profession who are really champions of professional learning in the way that chartered status just absolutely shouts, here I am, I'm a chartered teacher, you might as well say, I'm a royal teacher. It's something that I think is prestigious. And regardless of the type of school that you teach in, recognition like that is in short supply.
Education is changing a bit, I would say, well, hopefully changing more than a bit as we go into the modern era. How do you think the chartered college can help that process happen and guide it, if that's what you see your role as, in a direction that's a good direction?
So as a professional body, we are driven by this notion of professionalism. What does it mean to be a professional? How can we encourage colleagues to behave in a collegiate manner, to learn from each other, to take the best of teaching and promote those ideas, rather than spiral downwards into, you can find some forums which are full of teachers complaining about their lot. I'm much more interested in How do we espouse what it means to be a great teacher, the difference that we make, and we genuinely do transform lives. Great teachers make a huge difference to colleagues' lives and to children's lives. And so, therefore, I think however education develops, the profession being on the front foot, knowing about development, being engaged with things like AI, for example, we need to be in control of these developments. We don't just need to be sort of waiting for things to happen to us. If you think about under a previous Labour government, they spent a lot of money installing interactive whiteboards in classrooms across the land. It'd be lovely to have that kind of investment now, wouldn't it? We can only dream of these things. Anyway, that investment was made without a corresponding investment in teacher knowledge and development, which meant that the resource quite often was just used as a blackboard, only it was white. So all of the sort of technology that was behind it that could have influenced pedagogy was potentially lost completely because teachers didn't know about it, and teachers were getting on with what they were doing, and they were very busy, and they were just carrying on in their classrooms. So this notion of a professional body that takes the best of learning and promotes ideas and helps colleagues to feel in control, but also inspired to learn more. Mm-hmm. I think this is fundamental to moving schools forward, because if everybody is just following the rule, if they're just following somebody else's recipe and never concentrating on developing their repertoire, they become stuck. Mm-hmm. What we need are teachers who have an ever-growing repertoire of skills, of subject knowledge, of capacity to be able to inspire, to be able to calm down situations, a whole repertoire of skills. It's a very, very complex job being a teacher, but it's also a brilliant one, and we need to promote that.
So, and are you promoting it, or are you actively training people as well?
So we're doing both. We are very keen for teachers to engage in professional learning from wherever. It's far better that they are learning than that they're not. Obviously, from the Chartered College point of view, we're also very keen that when they are engaged in a learning process, if they're doing a PhD or a master's, or if they're following one of the national professional qualifications, we want to hear about their learning. We want them to potentially contribute to our journal that we publish 3 times a year. We want them to engage in webinars with us, to write for us. Our whole mission is to build a profession that is intellectually, capable and vibrant, and a profession that is full of colleagues who want to make a difference and know the best ways to be able to do this. It's all about heart and head and hand. It's around everything that we do is around building that sense of capacity to carry on learning. And as I've said, the job of being a teacher is such a complex one. It really is. It's very difficult to encapsulate because there are so many demands. The role of being a teacher is being compared with working in an A&E unit, in a sort of casualty department, constantly having to interact with so many different colleagues and different demands at different times. A comparison has been made in that way, and I think it's probably very true. Because at any stage that you're working in a classroom, you're working with 30 plus individuals. They're all coming from their own particular standpoint in terms of what they understand, what they don't understand. You're setting out to teach something, but any number of things can happen to get in the way of that learning that might be taking place. Just because children are sitting quietly doesn't mean they're actually listening. There's so many complexities towards creating a learning environment. And I think the more that we recognise the complexity and the challenge of the role of the teacher, the more that we see that learning together, learning from each other, learning in a collegiate way, trusting each other, building respect, all of these things are vital. And then there's the whole kind of rest of society. So how do we help parents? How do teachers best relate to parents? And that's becoming increasingly challenging because parents are more and more frustrated with life, and quite often the only people they can come and talk to, you can't speak to your doctor anymore, can you? So probably the only person you can come and moan at is the teacher. And teachers have to be very resilient and professional in their response to the kinds of concerns that parents bring them, because parents have a whole raft of things they're worried about, in addition to whether or not your child's plimsoll's been lost, or in addition to whether or not the homework's been done, or whatever it may be. So relationships between the home and the school, I think, are more important than they've ever been. And it takes skill.
So I'm with you as a parent. I feel that frustration sometimes. And also I see it from the other side with teachers. And, I think that a lot of issues have come around, well, the status, as you say, the status of teachers within the community, which used to be minor gods, and now it's just like almost a commodity. So what are your ideas as how you might be able to change that, not necessarily back to where it was before, but to a position where actually teachers are recognized and respected for what they do, which is to train young people for the future to make the world a better place?
Yeah, well, obviously, just saying that the role of teaching to make the world a better place is a pretty important role. It can't be enough any longer, I think, for teachers to do a degree and then do a postgraduate qualification, and then land in a classroom and be expected to flourish. We have mentoring programs that are put in place nationally, which are, I think, very welcome. But the reality is, to be a teacher, to be a school leader, to be a college leader is a lifelong endeavour. It means constantly learning, developing practice, working with other colleagues. And as a professional body, we're here to support that process right the way along the journey. So we support teachers when they first come into, or when they're even thinking about teaching. We're talking about the profession and how amazing it is, but we're also very aware that there are lots of challenges. So we provide resources on our website. We've written books. We've got webinars, all kinds of things that help teachers as they're beginning on their journey. And then as they develop through their journey, through their career, we're wanting to give them as many opportunities to build their practice. And the chartered route is obviously our premium kind of product that we would love some teachers to become chartered. But, for all teachers, the idea of recognising their worth and recognising that to continue to learn is not a deficit, it's a strength, I think is a really important principle. So throughout the pandemic, the Chartered College was constantly reminding teachers of the great job that they were doing, the importance of their role, the importance within society of teachers being able to be those colleagues who help youngsters believe that there's something more than what they're experiencing right now, and helping them beyond mental health concerns and so on. We need to help teachers maintain that resilience, build that sense of pride, and deservedly so. So the trouble with teaching is everybody's been to school, and for every brilliant teacher, there will always have been a teacher that, maybe you and your colleagues when you were children laughed at. I mean, I can think of teachers that I just were appalling in my school career. We can all think of teachers like that. And the problem is, because of that, if we're not careful, teaching is kind of seen as something that anybody could do. Whereas actually, when we think more positively about the teachers that have made real difference to our lives, and again, I think most of us could think of somebody that did make that difference, that either inspired us through their teaching to be able to achieve more than we thought we could, or suggested ways of doing something that meant that we moved beyond our comfort zone and tried something that actually then led to amazing opportunities in the future. Those are the people that we really want to work with. We want to help people be reminded of. And we do want to build quality. Of course we do. So the Chartered College, okay, we've got a Royal Charter. That means we want to build quality. We want the best possible people working with our children. Why would we want anything else? So at the moment, we've got a situation in many schools where, because of the paying conditions for teachers, and that is the reality, we've got declining staff numbers. We've got teachers who are teaching beyond their subject specialism. And that leads to a situation where not only are teachers stressed, but youngsters are stressed too, because they don't feel they're getting the best access to the best possible teachers. So these are all really urgent issues that we want to highlight. And we constantly talk to politicians and anybody else who will listen to us around how we make things better. And we do need to invest in our education system. We've just seen in the news over Christmas about buildings falling down because they haven't been invested in. You can't just leave something like a public service like education and expect it just to be able to constantly kind of look down the back of the sofa and find another 50p that's going to make it all work. We've come. We're on our uppers. We've come to the point where we can't. So all of these things are really important. And we're not a union. The unions speak up for teachers' rights, but we are a professional body that is very keen to promote, in the public opinion, why do teachers matter so much, and what can we do to ensure that they carry on being brilliant?
So providing badge of quality, some resources and stuff like that. What I think everyone who's listening to this would agree with the idea that we need to promote and encourage teachers to do the fantastic stuff that they're doing. And I'm with you. I can remember the really bad ones, and I can name them and know what they look like, and it still sends a shiver in my. But equally, there were some fantastic teachers. My chemistry teacher was just so enthusiastic. He used to blow stuff up. We used to have to abandon the laboratories every week. And as a result, I became a chemist. So what would you? I'm just going to switch slightly the question, which is like, what do you think the biggest challenge is going forward for the Chartered College?
The biggest challenge for the Chartered College. Well, if we weren't perceived to be relevant, if we were viewed as just an appendage, something that wasn't relevant anymore. That hasn't been the case over the last 7 years. I mean, we've gone from sort of no members to 45,000 plus in 7 years. I think we have an increasingly strong reputation across the education sector. We are viewed as an organisation that is balanced and compassionate, but also not ideologically driven. These are really, really important qualities in an organisation. And I think when we have, as we all, there will be this year, there'll be a general election, and whatever happens as a result of that general election, the Chartered College remains on the landscape. And I think the longer that we continue to work in the way that we do, to engage as many colleagues as we can, to emphasise this view that we are far more united than we are divided as a profession. We are united universally by wanting to do things that make things better for children and young people. And the more that we can promote that notion of quality, enable teachers, as I've said, to engage in career-long development and learning, celebrate what they're achieving, give a voice to those individual teachers who may be doing something amazing in a classroom somewhere in Cumbria and no one's heard of it, giving an opportunity for that practice to be shared. These are things that, when I was beginning as a teacher, I would have loved to have had the opportunity to engage with. And it is also about, for some teachers who have the time, it is about them engaging in research and really looking at the research knowledge. So for the teaching profession, our organisation was the first organisation to provide access to the EBSCO research database. That's the database that you would access if you were doing a PhD at university. Why wouldn't you make that available to the teaching profession? Now, I mean, the reality is I went on it the other day and looked in, I typed in formative assessment and it said there were 40,000 articles. So maybe that was going to be too much. But what we do is we provide a synthesis. We provide sort of bite-sized kind of research around themes. So if a school's looking at, what might we do to improve our early writing, we would give them an opportunity to sort of say, well, these are kind of the leading articles on this that you might want to look at. This is what's been published in our journal. This is what these teachers are doing. Actually, there's a teacher over there that's doing something really interesting. You might want to go and visit. And the more that we do that, the more that the job of being a teacher moves into that collegiate space as opposed to the isolated, I'm a teacher on my own in my classroom and I've got to make it up all by myself. I don't think there are many teachers who feel that now, but certainly there is that sense of isolation if you're not careful. Mm-hmm. So being part of a community and then linking to the subject communities as well, all of this has to be a good thing, it seems to me.
It sounds good to me. So basically making it a profession as opposed to a collection of individuals.
Exactly.